Well, hey there, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Tip Tuesday, but actually it's Wednesday because we don't know how to do schedules around here. It's been a couple of bumpy weeks. We were out of the office, so we weren't here live for you all for a few weeks. We are back now, but doing this today as we weren't able to get to it yesterday. So welcome back. Let me pull up real fast. First of all, apologize for this horrible lighting. This is driving me up a wall that my face looks really washed out, but we're just going with it. We hopefully by next week will be downstairs in my newly refurbished studio. Some of you know that I have a studio down in my basement that I used to use to go live, and we completely overhauled it. So I'm excited. We're just waiting for a few more tech pieces, tech gear to show up, and then we'll have it fully ready to go. So hopefully next week I'll be down there. We won't have any lighting issues, and that'll make me super happy. So hey, everyone who's here watching live, we are going to get started for, again, Tip Tuesday, but it's actually Wednesday. We're going to get started in just a second here. I want to go ahead and pull some stuff up. If you are here live, also, I'm going to turn off whatever is sending me 9 gazillion alerts. It's probably Facebook, because that drives me batty when I'm doing a live and I keep hearing those. If you are here live, let me know that you are here. I love to know who's here watching. Nope, it's my Slack. My team is just messaging me hard at work. I love it. So let me know you're here live, and we are going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen here. So today we are talking all about taxes, because believe it or not, we're still in tax time, y'all. Hopefully all of you have filed your taxes, but if you haven't, there's still time, and it's totally fine. There's no shame if you haven't, but we are still, deep in this tax season here. So I wanted to come to you today and talk a little bit about some kind of like last minute tax stuff. If you haven't filed your taxes, we don't want that picture of me behind. That doesn't work. We're going to have better control over our graphics too when we're in the new studio, which I'm super excited about. Okay, so crap, it's tax time. Today, we're going to be talking about kind of last minute tips for primarily online business owners, but really kind of for everybody. Hey, thank you so much for being here. Since I can't see who you are to thank you, as a reminder to everyone who's watching, right above my head, there should be a little thing that says, we're going live using StreamYard. Please click this link so that we can actually see who you are, because I love to be able to thank you personally. I usually have it up on my phone. I'm just not that with it today. We're struggling a little bit today, but so glad you love the tips. We will definitely keep them coming. So crap, it's tax time. Let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to make this short and sweet because no one really wants to talk about taxes that long, but I do want to make sure we get you some useful information. So first and foremost, if you haven't heard, the new tax deadline, at least at the federal level, is May 17th of 2021. So normally April 15th, it was extended by a month because of the pandemic, but also because of the what felt like a gazillion tax law changes that came out as a result of the pandemic. Literally, in fact, I was on a webinar yesterday with an older gentleman who has been practicing taxes for 50 years, and he works a lot with the IRS. And he said that in his entire time doing taxes, he cannot remember a single tax season where we CPAs, tax preparers, have gotten changes to tax laws after the filing season has opened. This is like completely unheard of. And anyone who's a current client, if any of these have affected you, you know this, because I'm literally have gone back to some of my current clients and said, this is crazy. I'm really sorry, but sorry, I did not mean to say crazy. I'm trying to use that word less. But this is unusual. I'm really sorry, but by the way, the rules just changed and we have to change something. This has never happened before, and it's because of the pandemic. It's because with the American Rescue Plan and the other COVID relief, that things are just being changed by the government to try, to as quickly as they can, and as a result, we're getting changes after tax filing season is opened. So new deadline, May 17th, 2021. Now, a lot of states have followed this. So a lot of states have moved their deadlines to May 17th as well. Not every state has. So make sure you check your state. We're already past that April 15th deadline. So if you've missed it, you've missed it, but just make sure you check your state, you understand. I also want to mention here that for folks down in Texas and some folks in other places like Oklahoma, your deadline actually may have been extended to June because of the snowpocalypse in February. So if you fall into one of those states, one of those areas, it was extended to June at the federal level, and then the state itself, Texas doesn't have a state income tax for personal, but for business stuff, that was extended And then I think Oklahoma did an extension for certain folks. So just make sure you check that if that applies to you. But new deadline, woohoo, very exciting. This is the most important thing I will ever say to you both today and also in all of our time together. Even if you cannot pay what you owe, please file. I cannot stress this enough. The penalties for not filing your tax return can be huge. The penalties, on the other hand, for filing but not being able to pay are not that huge. Yeah, they accrue over time and it's not nothing, but they're nothing compared to the penalties for failing to file. So I cannot stress this enough. It is not going to be better for you to not file if you cannot pay. And the reality of the situation is, like anything, if you avoid this or ignore it, it's not going to go away. The IRS is not going to forget. They're going to come back and it's going to be so much worse down the road. And by the way, I want to mention that the IRS right now is actually a couple of years behind. Like, I just got a notice about my 2018 tax return that I owe a couple $100 more than I thought I did. I disagree with them. We'll fight it. I'll put that on my Instagram stories like I always do. But that's 2018, y'all. That was filed 2+ years ago. So this is the, excuse me, the kind of thing where you may say, oh, I'm not going to worry about it. Whatever, I can't afford it. I'll just skip this year. And a couple of years from now, you might be thinking, I'm fine. I'm good. I haven't heard from the IRS. Oh, you will hear from them, and it may take them a few years. And also, let's remember that there's no statute of extensions if you fail to file. Okay, there just isn't a statute of extensions. So get the return filed. Get that statute of limitations. What did I say? Statute of extensions. That's not even a thing. I don't know what that is. Get that started, and then work out a payment plan with them. The IRS actually has very decent payment plans. It's not great, but it's better than a credit card, and they will work with you. They also have offer and compromise options where you end up paying less of what you owe. So they want to get paid. I mean, they are willing to work with you if you work with them. So please, please, please file on time. If you need more time to file, you can file an extension until October 15th. Now, this is always the case. So this is the normal extension period. It has not been extended by a month like the regular deadline was. But in order to get this extension, you do have to file a form. It's form 70. No, what's the personal one? That's business. I can't remember the personal one right now. But it's a very simple one-page form that you have to file with the IRS to get the extension. Now, just because you file the extension at the federal level does not mean you get it at the state level. Some states, in fact, a lot of states, will automatically give you the extension simply because you filed the form at the federal level. Some states won't. They require their own form. Their extension date might be the same or it might be different. So make sure you check into that for your particular state. The other thing I want to mention here, and I actually meant to mention this when we were talking about the extended deadline, is this is just for the Form 1040, your personal tax return. Now, if you are a sole proprietor or a single member LLC, then you are filing your business income on Schedule C, which is on your Form 1040. So this covers you. But if you have a multi-member LLC, which means you're filing a partnership return, or you have an S corporation, which means you're filing Form 1120S, those deadlines was March 15th. That was not extended. They did not extend the S Corp deadline for the pandemic. So that return was due March 15th. Now, again, you could file for an extension, but you had to file that form. And I'm talking about the federal level, of course, here states may have different rules. So this is just for your personal returns and the business income that gets reported on those personal returns. It's not for any business returns. I just want to make that super clear. Now that I've scared you and told you like, oh my gosh, hurry up, you got to file, do all this, I actually want to pull you back a little bit and remind you that rushing on this stuff, rushing on preparing your tax returns will likely cost you money. Remember, if you cannot get this done by May 17th, you can file for an extension and there is nothing wrong with that. But actually, by the way, I want to go back. There's one more thing I want to say. Filing for an extension of time to file, that was a lot of files in one sentence. An extension of time to file is not an extension of time to pay. So even if you submit the form to extend your deadline to October 15th, your payment is still due by May. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, well, how the heck am I supposed to pay when I haven't calculated the return? I don't know what's owed. And the answer is you do your best. This is where having paid in quarterly estimated payments will have helped. This is also where following the safe harbor rules, which I'm not going to talk about today, I've talked about them in plenty of other videos, but the safe harbor rules about paying in a certain amount of money to fall under the safe harbor will come into play, because if you've paid in enough under the safe harbor, when you get to October and you file your return, you may still owe money, but you won't pay penalties on that money if you've met the safe harbor rules. Okay, so I just want to make that clear. An extension of time to file is not an extension of time to pay. There is no extension of time to pay available. It's just not something the IRS offers, other than the fact that this year they changed it from April to May, but that's very, very rare. Okay, so again, rushing will likely cost you money. So if you feel like you're scrambling, you're not sure how to pull this thing together, I want you to go ahead and file your extension, then take your time, get it done by October. But if you're in a good position, you can get it done by May. I recommend you do that, especially because if you're owed a refund, which, by the way, you shouldn't be owed a large refund, because you hopefully will be adjusting any withholdings or paying in the right amount so that you're not loaning the IRS your money interest-free. But if you are, if you get a big refund, that's okay. Don't panic. There's no shame or judgment here. Just work on maybe fixing that so that next year you don't get a huge refund, because I don't like to give the IRS my money for free. And that's what a refund is. But anyway, I digress. If you are getting a refund on your tax return, you want to get it in sooner than later, because they are really backed up, y'all. Now, I will say I actually was owed a refund this year, and it wasn't because I decided to give them my money tax interest-free. It was because of a few surprise credits and deductions that came in at the end because of the pandemic that I couldn't have prepared for. But I was actually surprised how quickly I got my refund. But that's not been the case for everybody. So I know some people who are still waiting. So if you're getting a refund, make sure you get that return in as soon as you can, because the IRS is very behind. The other thing I want to say is, what was the other thing I was going to say about this? Nope, I've forgotten now. So basically, bottom line, rushing will likely cost you money. I don't want you to do any of this out of stress. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I know I'm telling you to file an extension if you're not ready. However, if you're saying to yourself, oh, I'm going to file an extension, but the reason you're doing that is because you just don't want to deal with this, or you're afraid of having to push through this and look at the numbers, you're afraid that you're going to owe money. Remember, an extension of time to file is not an extension of time to pay. Then I don't want you to file the extension. I want you to put on your big girl or big boy or big whatever pants, and I want you to just do this, because you're going to have to do it at some point. And so let's just get it done now, so that, especially if you are owed a refund, you can get that money back. Okay. There have been a lot of 2020 tax law changes. I am not going to go through all of them today. In fact, I've got videos upon videos upon videos where I've gone through different aspects of them. However, I do want to just cover some of the big ones today, because I want to make sure that you have these on your radar. First and foremost, unemployment benefits. So as part of the I always script the name, American Rescue Plan Act, I think is what it was called. This is the one done this spring. They have exempted up to $10,200 of unemployment benefits from taxable income at the federal level. So if you received unemployment benefits in 2020, you can get up to $10,200 tax-free at the federal level as a result of this change. Now, a month ago when I was talking to you about this, I was saying, don't file your returns yet, because we haven't gotten the guidance from the IRS on how to report this. We have now. We understand now how to report this. The IRS is ready to accept this information. If you filed your return, so if this applies to you and you filed your return before we got that guidance, before they announced that this was a benefit, and so you didn't get the benefit on your return, the IRS has said that they will automatically calculate the benefit for you and kind of true up if they owe you more money or whatever. That's great news. It means you don't have to amend your tax return. The one caveat to that is if when they, let me think about how to say this. If when they recalculate your return and exempt that $10,200 of unemployment benefits for you, if that lowers your total taxable income to a point where you would then qualify for other deductions or credits, they are not going to calculate that piece for you. So what I recommend doing is going back to your 2020 return, doing like a quick calculation, like what would my income number have been if the $10,200 was exempted? Where does that put my income number? And does that allow me to now qualify for any other benefits or credits? And if it does, then I'm going to amend my tax return. But those are the only people who need to amend, okay? So if you haven't filed your tax return yet, good news is you get the up to $10,200 in unemployment benefits tax-free at the federal level. A lot of states are, I shouldn't say a lot, a good number of states are following the federal treatment. A lot aren't. Some states are doing something in the middle. Here in Massachusetts, for example, I know they're doing a portion depending on where your income is. It's not nearly as advantageous as the federal benefit is. Other states are following it exactly. And even other states are saying we're not going to do any benefit at all. So keep in mind that this may change your federal number. It may be a benefit at the federal level. It may not give you anything at the state level. The way you report this, if you're doing your own tax return, is on Schedule 1 when you report unemployment benefits. By the way, still report them. You have to report them. But then you also get to report basically a negative unemployment benefits for the up to $10,200 amount. Now, if you got benefits less than $10,200, you don't get to subtract $10,200. You subtract up to the amount you received. Okay, the next thing are the recovery rebate credits. And this is a fancy term for the stimulus payments. So we've had 3 so far. We had one in the spring of 2020. We had another one kind of that fall time period of 2020, and then one most recently. Now, that may not be when you got your check. That's when they came through. Your check may have arrived or your money may have arrived later on. But we've had 3 payments. And I was just trying to think about how much it was. So the first round was $1,200. I'm going to screw this up. Inevitably, I'm going to screw this up. The first round was $1,200 per person with, I believe, $600 per dependent. The second round was, I think the second round was $600 for everybody. And I don't even remember the third round. Somebody will have to tell me, $1,400, something like that. I think I've screwed that up a little bit. But what the recovery rebate credit does on your tax return is it basically makes sure you got all the money you were entitled to. The reason why you might not have is because in order to pay out those payments to you, the federal government used your most recently filed tax return, either 2019 or 2020. If you didn't have a recently filed tax return, you may not have gotten a payment at all, even though you were entitled to one. So that's what they used. But if your income in 2019 was too high for the stimulus payments, but your income in 2020 was low enough to qualify, which by the way is the case for a lot of people because a lot of people's income went down because of the pandemic. If that was the case, you may not have gotten a payment because of your 2019 income, but you actually deserve one because of your 2020 income. So on your 2020 Form 1040, there's a recovery rebate credit worksheet that asks you how much did you receive, how much were you actually entitled to based on your 2020 income, and what's the difference? And then they will send you the difference. Now, before you think, oh, I've got a way, I'm going to get more money from the government, I'm going to just tell them I got less than I really got. Not that you would do that, but I'm just saying. The IRS is checking every single recovery rebate credit worksheet against their records. This is why the IRS is behind. Well, it's an example of why they're behind. They are checking every freaking worksheet. So the good news is if you're not totally sure, if you're like, I think I got this amount, I'm not totally sure, they're going to check and do the math for you. So keep in mind that that may delay your return as well. If you are saying, yes, we're owed more money, the IRS is saying, great, let us do the math and we'll get back to you. And note that they may change that number if they disagree with the numbers you put in. So the refund you get may be less, or you may end up owing more if you owe money. So just keep that in mind too, but make sure you fill out that worksheet, especially if you think you're owed money. I also want to be clear, if you got more than you should have gotten, so maybe your 2019 income was lower than 2020, and so you actually got more than you should have gotten, you don't have to pay it back, and they're not going to tax you. So filling out the worksheet is not going to hurt you. It's only going to help you, okay? The third thing I want to point to you is charitable contributions. So for 2020 and 2021, the IRS, or well, actually the Congress passed as part of the COVID relief plan, they passed a special rule that allows you to take up to $300 for charitable contribution deductions, even if you take the standard deduction. So normally you have 2 options. You can take the standard deduction, which is the amount changes every year, but it's a set amount depending on your filing status. You can take the standard deduction, or you can itemize deductions. This is where you take your mortgage interest and your property taxes and your medical expenses and your charitable contributions and all that stuff, and you add them all up. And if they're more than your standard deduction, then you would take itemized deductions versus the standard. Well, the downside, not downside, but the sort of thing about the standard deduction is it's a fixed amount. So that amount is what you take. If you have charitable contributions, you're not going to get a deduction for them unless you have enough deductions in total to itemize over the standard deduction amount. So what Congress did for 2020 and 2021 is they said, if you take the standard deduction, we will let you take up to $300 as a deduction for charitable contributions you made in 2020, and then they're going to let us do the same thing next year for 2021. Now, it's $300 total in 2020. In 2021, it's $300 per person. So if you're married filing joint, $300 for each of you. But in 2020, it's just the $300. You're going to see it's a special line on the 2020 Form 1040. It's going to ask, did you make any charitable contributions? If you're taking the standard deduction, potentially you get up to $300. And it's, by the way, you have to have made the charitable contributions to get the deduction. So you can't just take the $300. If you only contributed $100, that's the deduction you get, okay? The next change are the sick and family leave credits. Now, these are very detailed. I'm not going to go into all the details on this. I highly recommend going to the IRS's website. I've also covered these in past videos as well. But as a result of the pandemic, there are a lot of credits out there if you provided sick and or family leave to your employees because of the pandemic. There are a lot of credits for you as an employer that you can take advantage of. There is also a credit if you are self-employed and you don't have any employees. If you provided sick and or family leave to yourself. So basically, if you were out of your business for a period of time because of the pandemic, not because there wasn't work, that's a different thing, but because you got sick or a family member got sick, you may be able to qualify for some of these credits. Again, I'm not going to go into the details here. They're really complicated. I've done it in a previous video, but definitely check it out if you think this applies to you. The last thing I want to bring up are grants. A lot of people got grants in 2020 because of the pandemic. Some people got the SBA EIDL advance, which that was a lot of letters I just threw at you. SBA, Small Business Administration, EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan. It's a loan that the SBA offers to businesses in times of economic crisis. But last year, what they did, because they needed to get money to people fast, was they said, we're going to give you up to $10,000 in a grant in an advance. And even if you don't qualify for the loan once we do your application, that advance money is yours to keep. You don't owe it. You don't have to pay it back. Well, the good news is that advance money is also not taxable income. So make sure you're not including that in your taxable income. But that's just one example of a grant. Lots of people got, there were states doing grants and cities doing grants and organizations doing grants. Pay really close attention if you got any kind of a grant in 2020, pay really close attention to whether or not it's taxable income. So outside of COVID times, most grants are taxable income, but there are some grants that have special tax status, most likely because they were some kind of initiative by the federal government. And so they're offering them tax-free, meaning they're not taxable income at the federal level. There also may be state grants that the state has offered tax-free, so they're not taxable income at the state level. So a couple of things to know about grants is, number one, are they taxable income or not? Number two, answer that question at both levels, federal and state. They might be taxable at the federal and not at the state, or vice versa. That EIDL amount, states are treating differently, okay? So you have to look at your state. So I just want to point that out about grants. That was a lot. It was a lot of 2020. And then there have been many, many, many more than that. But those are the big ones that I think affect folks kind of doing the work that we do. So again, just make sure you're knowledgeable about these. This is why I keep stressing, and normally I don't do this, but I keep stressing 2020 is a great year to work with an accountant to do your taxes. Y'all know from a year ago, if you watched me then, I used to be much more supportive of folks doing their own taxes if they were just starting out or if their situation was simple. Now I am much more like, please hire someone. Please hire. I'm begging you. It doesn't have to be me. If you don't want to hire me, that's fine, but please hire someone. Because 2020 was just such a challenging year. And it's being confirmed here for me, $1,400 for the last one. Thank you. That's what I remembered. But, I hadn't, it was escaping my mind. Okay, so what are some common errors that folks make? I wanted to share these with you, because a lot of times I hear from folks who have tax return issues, and they are because of very simple things. There are definitely complicated things you can screw up, no question. But most people that I talk to that have had issues, it's because of these really simple things that could actually be fixed fairly easily. First and foremost, wrong social security numbers. You'd be surprised how often this comes up, but it does. Please make sure that your social security numbers are correct. When the IRS gets your return, one of the first things they do is they check that social security number to see if you're already in their system. And then they use that social security number to link your return to any other documents they have. So for example, if an employer filed a Form W-2 for your wages, if someone filed a Form 1099, anything like that. So if your social security number is wrong, your return is probably going to get rejected. Or it might even, if you actually put in a wrong number that is actually someone else's number, it might even get connected with them. It could be a whole mess. So please make sure those are correct. The second one, and this one drives me up a wall from an equity perspective, but we're just going to push this aside for a second, is flipping the order of your names. So if you are a tax client of mine, and you happen to be newly married or whatnot, you may happen to notice that if this is the first year you're filing a tax return, where there are two people on the return, that I put the woman's name first if it's a man and a woman. And I do that because frankly, I'm really sick of men's names going first on all these documents. The problem though, and I've actually had some clients, there's nothing wrong with that. Doing that is fine. I've had some clients who say to me, hey, can you flip our names? Because I'm sick of my husband being first. Because the person who's first on the tax return is what's called the primary taxpayer. And they basically become sort of the default person, the name on the account, which is really frustrating to those of us who are identify as women, who are married to men, who say, hey, I'm half of this thing. The problem is if we flip those names and we put the woman's name first, it can screw up a whole host of things with the IRS. Now, it's not the end of the world. You just have to know that it may delay your return because again, what happens when the IRS gets that return is they check primary taxpayer to primary taxpayer. So if all of a sudden you're listed as a primary taxpayer and in the past you weren't, that's might throw some things off. It might give a bit of a rejection in their system. And then they're going to have to figure out, they're going to have to basically find your old tax returns to reconcile your accounts. So I'm not completely opposed to flipping your names just to kind of stick it to the old system of men going first. But just keep in mind, it may slow down your return. Now, the good thing about this error is it most likely won't cause any permanent issues. It just may delay your return. So if you're getting a refund, it may delay getting that refund. But if you're okay with that, I fully support flipping the names. Another one that is a big issue are bad account numbers. This is a huge issue. So when I say account numbers, I mean bank account numbers. So whether you're getting a refund or you're paying money, please check your bank account. Because if you put the wrong numbers in there, big surprise, you won't get your money or you won't get your money paid if you owe money. And that can create an issue from a couple of perspectives. Number one, if you're getting a refund, you want to make sure you get your money. But if you owe money, you want to make sure it gets paid because if it doesn't get paid by that deadline, you will most likely get charged penalties. So again, an extension of time to file is not an extension of time to pay. Your payment is due by May 17th. So let's make sure your bank account numbers are correct so that money gets there. Number 4 is no signature. Very few people paper file their returns anymore, but if you are one of them, make sure you have signed your returns. Otherwise, if you are e-filing, there's a form that you'll sign, but your signature doesn't go on your return. But if you're paper filing, make sure you sign the returns. And then the last are e-filing PIN errors. And this is like a really random one, but when you e-file your return, and it depends on the system you're using, if you're having someone prepare it versus doing it yourself, but you have to put a PIN in there. And so if you actually don't put a PIN number in or you don't put the right number combination or whatever, that can bounce back errors too. So I always tell people, like, if you're e-filing your return, just don't rush through that process. Make sure you do it kind of slowly. Because what happens is if your return gets rejected, and it usually, when I say rejected, I don't mean the IRS disagrees with your numbers. I'm talking about the very initial stage where you've submitted your return and the system rejects it. And that usually happens within 48 to 72 hours, by the way. What happens if your return gets rejected is you have what's called a perfection period. You have a period of time to go in and fix your return and resubmit it without and still get credit basically for filing it on a certain day. So if you're e-filing your return on May 17th and then your return gets rejected on May 19th, you've got a period of time. I think it's 7 days. Don't quote me on that. I haven't had to use it in a while for clients because my people, for the most part, don't get rejected. I had one this year, but for the most part, they don't. But so usually you've got that period of time where as long as you correct it and refile it, it'll count as having been filed on May 17th. So you just want to make sure, that you do that. But ideally, it doesn't get rejected in the first place. And following these tips will help it to not get rejected. Okay. Okay, so that is all I've got for you, kind of your crap it's tax time last minute tips. I do just want to remind everybody that I do offer done for you tax prep services. You can learn more about those by going to megkwheeler.com/tax. I will tell you, if I had come here a couple of weeks ago and talked to you about this, I would have said we are completely sold out for 2020. We cannot take on any more 2020 clients. Now that we have gotten through our backlog of clients, and we have the new deadline, I will tell you we can take on a few more 2020 clients. If you come on with us, we will almost certainly be extending your return. So please just keep that in mind, because it'd be really hard to get a return done in like 10 days. But we do have room now to bring on more 2020 clients. So if you are interested in that, the details actually aren't on this website because we're not advertising it publicly. Please send me an email at support@megkwheeler.com, or you can even just comment here and we can reach out if you want help with 2020. Otherwise, our 2021 tax package is up and live at megkwheeler.com/tax. And what that includes, you get your 2021 annual tax return. So we're going to do that in April of next year. You also get your 2021 quarterly tax calculations. So if you're making money in your business, you need to be paying quarterly estimated taxes. We will do those calculations for you so that all you have to do is pay. We've already gone through Q1, so we'll start with Q2 if you sign on now. You also get 4 quarterly tax planning calls. So these are 1-hour calls. We meet once a quarter. We basically get all of your questions answered. I ask you about how your business is going. I learn about what's going on in your business so that I can help you with tax saving strategies. It's a really great opportunity to get support throughout the year, because I do not want to just be the kind of accountant that only shows up in April when it's tax time. I am constantly saying that preparing your tax return is the least important thing I do for you. The most important work that I do with my clients is supporting them throughout the year so that we can do things throughout the year that help you save money on taxes. By the time we get to your tax return, there's very little we can do at that point for the former year. You will also get access to, for the entire year, access to ask me unlimited questions via Voxer, which is our voice message system, as well as our tax client portal. You actually get that through April 30th of 2022. So you get it through the filing of your return for next year. Plus, we've got some other bonuses. You get access to my membership, Badass Moneymakers. You get a 1-year membership to that. You get my Biz Money Bundle, which is my cash flow tracker, my profit tracker, my budget template. You get a bunch of other things there. And if you pay in full, this is a super cool thing I'm like jazzed about. If you pay in full, you get 2 free tickets to my live event that we're going to be doing this fall, Badass Money Masters. It's going to be virtual, so nobody needs to stress about travel or anything like that. But it's going to be an awesome 2-day event, all about the money stuff, business and personal. So we're going to help whip you into shape in both. And it's going to be really awesome. So you get 2 free tickets to that when you pay in full for my 2021 tax package. So if you've got a spouse or you've got a business partner, you can invite them as well. But you can learn more and sign up by going to megkwheeler.com/tax. I'm going to wrap it up here. Before I do, I just want to make sure there aren't any questions. So feel free to post questions in the comments if you have any before I end. And then just a reminder to get those 2020 taxes filed. And again, I do have a few spots open. If you still need help with that, email it here. I'll put it up on the screen. But email us at support@megkwheeler.com. Just because it's not up on our 2021 page anymore, because we're not opening it up to everyone in the public, really just kind of people in my community. So again, support@megkwheeler.com. And if you want to sign up for the 2021 package, go to megkwheeler.com/tax. If you want both, but I should have said this before, if you want both 2020 and 2021, email us, because we have some deals going on if you want both, but again, not published. Just because we've already made the transition over. So let me know about that. All right, I don't see any questions, so I'm going to leave it there. As a reminder, we'll be back here next week for Tip Tuesday. I think we're actually going to do that one on Tuesday. Let me check. I was going to check. Hold on. My calendar's not working. Next week's going to be kind of funky too, because I'm getting the second shot of my vaccine on Wednesday. So I'm actually planning to not be around Thursday and Friday because I'm terrified I'm going to get sick. So my doorbell, so my dog's going to lose his mind. Hold on. We're going to do next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern for our Tip Tuesday. Sparkles! 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 He has to announce everyone. It's so frustrating. So next Tuesday, I will see you all then. Otherwise, have a fabulous week and a great weekend.